Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win, or you find a way to lose. Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford, seems like they're still sorting it out, but we know the fight's going to happen this year. A lot of people are talking about this fight. I've done several videos. I'm really trying not to rehash things I've discussed, but there's something that got my attention during a conversation I was having the other day in regards to a video that I posted, where I was saying I feel the first 6 rounds could be Earl Spence, the last 6 rounds Terrence Crawford. And somebody chimed in and said, after the first 6 rounds, it's over. So if you're saying that Earl Spence wins the first 6, and Terrence Crawford doesn't have a chance to win the fight. And I just wanted to kind of elaborate on the first 6 rounds. What I meant by that is, in those first 6, we know that Crawford is more of a guy who starts off a little bit. He can start off fast, but he doesn't quite come out as fast as Earl Spence. What I'm saying is he's going to be collecting data, and he starts to pick it up round by round. And that's why I was saying after round 6, Crawford should be operating, full blast. But it doesn't mean that I was saying Crawford won't get a few of those early rounds. He could get Spence out of there early, or Spence could get him out of there early, but I think both of these guys are going to be on top of their game, where I don't foresee either one of them having a chance to really clip somebody unless someone turns reckless. So I want to be clear when I say this. I think quite often we want to pigeonhole fighters into the number 1 guy, the number 2, 3, 4, and rack and stack them and pound for pound. I'm going to go ahead and say this, right? It's the first time that I'm saying this because I've been thinking about it. Because you can go back and forth on Crawford and Spence on who you think is the best. But what we have here, in my opinion, are the 2 top number 1s at welterweight. To me, they're both number 1s. The 2 top number 1s fighting for the undisputed distinction. Now, I think that's fair to say. There's some people who'll still say, well, no, Crawford is number 2. Spence has 3 belts. I understand that philosophy, and it's hard for me to disagree with it. And some people say, no, Crawford's number 1, Spence is number 2. Because Crawford, what he did at 140, and the way he's managed to dominate fighters at 147. He didn't get the opportunity that Spence had, but what was in front of him, he dominated, and he did fight good fighters. Okay, I can understand that argument too, and it's hard for me to disagree with you. So what I've concluded is that Crawford and Spence are the 2 number 1s at 147, battling for the undisputed distinction. The winner of this fight will be the undisputed champion, which puts them in a category all by themselves. And then underneath that, we can rack and stack a 1 through 10. The champ is a champ. We can't make him a number 1. There's no coding for that. They're the champion. Everyone else is a rack and stack 1 through 10 as far as who comes right after the champion. So whoever loses this fight will be the number 1 to the undisputed. It makes sense? Because I think for me, it really is unfair to label either one of these guys as a number 2. It really is. Even though I believe in the resumes, I believe in the belts, I believe in pay-per-view, I believe in all those intangibles you have to take into consideration when really trying to delineate between an A and a B, or a number 1 and number 2, a gold and silver, But the more I look at it, I'm like, you know what? Why can't we put this spin on it? Undisputed, category of their own. Anyone underneath that, we're going to rack and stack them a 1 through 10. And I think that's fair, and I think that's more respectful to these 2 and what they bring to the table. But back to those first 6 rounds, okay? Crawford and Spence. We're talking about Crawford, a guy with 38 wins, 29 of those wins by KO. 20 of those 29 wins, those knockouts, 20 of them were in the first 6 rounds. Okay? So he has 38 wins, 29 KOs. 20 of the 29 came within the first 6. So you got to give Crawford a chance within those first 6 rounds to do some damage, to do something, to pull off the upset. It's possible. 20 of his 29 wins, he knocked opponents out within the first 6 rounds. Now Spence, 28 wins, 22 KOs. Okay? 18 of his 22 came within 6 rounds. 18 of his 22 are within 6 rounds. Now, I'm not going to peel it back to who Spence fought in those 18 fights, those 18 to get those 18 knockouts within 6. I'm not going to peel it back to talk about those 20 KOs within 6 rounds for Crawford and who he fought in those 20 fights. What I'm doing is letting you know, we're kind of setting the table to let y'all know. That first 6 rounds I was talking about, that can go either way. Because Spence does more of a, he comes out and he's more hemorrhaging punches. You know what I mean? Like, you got to apply a tourniquet to what Spence is putting out. With Crawford is more arterial bleeding type punches. It's just spurts, but not that where you got to necessarily have to put a tourniquet on. You know, the right pressure, the right point, the right placement, you can slow that down. But you see that hemorrhaging that Spence does? That is where if Crawford, which he adjusts to all of his opponents, his IQ is sharp. If he struggles with making those adjustments, which he has shown to have some lapses at times, but if for any reason he has a lapse or he struggles, well, Spence is hemorrhaging those shots, jabbing to the head, going to the body, combinations, then Crawford could have some issues. The downside to that is if Spence is hemorrhaging those punches and Crawford is sitting back and just figuring him out, and within the first couple of rounds he figures him out, and he starts to let his hands go by countering, switching. Because this is the thing when you fight a guy like Crawford, right? You're not just fighting him in the southpaw stance with that lead right foot and that backhand left. That's not what you're fighting. You're fighting that guy, that damn, when he switches, while he's backing up in between punches or exchanges. Now you got the left foot forward and the backhand right. You're fighting Terence Crawford's left foot, left hand, right hand. You fight all of that in the ring because he's using all of that to make the fight easy for him and hard for you. If you watch Terence Crawford's fights, right, he adapts to the opponent's style. And that's what when he comes out, he's watching, he's adapting. That's why his IQ is the way it is. That's why when he gets into a fight, you don't necessarily know what style he's going to bring. The one thing we do know is most of the time he will stay in that southpaw stance, majority of the fight. And he's so successful at it, although he's right-handed, right? He can fight both styles, but he's so successful at being a southpaw and, you know, fighting the orthodox stance because he's perfected it from both stances. Now, we've seen the talented fighters out there who can fight in both stances and can be highly effective, but I don't think there's anyone who's as effective as Terence Crawford. Now, when he's training, I apologize in advance, I don't know if he solely trains in the southpaw stance or if he does half southpaw, half orthodox. You know, I don't know. But it's not like the De La Hoyas, who are naturally left-handed but fought orthodox, so his jab and hook were killing you. It's not like the Miguel Cottos, who's naturally left-handed but fought orthodox, so his jab and left hook was killing you. It's not like even, think what you want, Victor Ortiz, who is naturally left-handed, naturally right-handed, but fought southpaw, is killing you with his jab and hook. So when these guys have that strong jab, strong hook, it's because they're the power hand, they're naturally right-handed, but they fight in a stance that really they shouldn't be. But some people are just more comfortable. Even when I was in the gyms a lot when I was younger, I'm right-handed. But for some reason, man, I just didn't like being in the orthodox stance. I tried it. It just didn't work, but I was just comfortable as a lefty. And everything flowed perfect. The damn straight left, I heard a lot of people with that left hand. But that damn jab and hook, man, it's your bread and butter. You know, that power hand. And so I understand. So I remember, I did a video about this. I remember we used to train before a fight. We'd be in the locker room and stuff like that. And sometimes other teams be watching you. And I would stand in an orthodox stance in shadow box because they were watching that. Oh, he's not southpaw, he's orthodox. So when I come in the ring, I would walk out orthodox, throw the first shot, jab, and then I would just switch. And half the time they didn't even realize I switched until it was too late. But being able to do that is not easy. So as far as Terrence Crawford, man, he's perfected fighting in both stances. He adjusts to the opponent's style. And that is something with Earl Spence. I'm not sure we've seen Earl Spence. I haven't seen Earl Spence have to come into the ring, adjust to his opponent's style, and do something differently. You can say, oh, in the Mikey Garcia fight, he boxed. He didn't adjust to Mikey's style. He did that to prove a point that he could box against someone who he knew couldn't hurt him. So let's just be real about it, okay? Not taking nothing from Earl Spence. Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford are the two number ones, okay? Because sometimes you people hear what you want. No, hear what I'm telling you, right? Don't look into what I'm saying. Just take it for what it is. Earl Spence is elite. Simple. But as far as him adjusting to opponent styles, not sure Earl Spence is on Terrence Crawford's level as far as being able to show a different layer. Now, Earl Spence is more known. Now, he's making adjustments in the ring, but he's not coming and just and showing that he can fight in all these different styles. And what I mean by like with Terrence Crawford, he can start to counter you, he can box, keep you out of range, he can come in close. And he does this in one fight. He's doing all of these different things, okay? And once he gets you going, then he really starts to open up and he starts to hemorrhage punches to get you out of there. Earl Spence is more high guard. He uses his legs. He'll go back with that high guard up. And then when you throw, he'll counter over it. Earl Spence does a lot of little things. If you don't have the trained eye, you won't see it. But for the most part, Earl Spence is a guy, he's gonna come in, jab, 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 shot, go to the body, come up, close the distance. He knows how to come in behind the jab on an angle, so have you in the line of fire that left hand, rip right hand, left hook to the body. Classic Earl Spence. And the thing about Earl Spence that I'm gonna give him the advantage here that Terrence Crawford doesn't do is very seldom that Earl Spence will just throw one shot at a time. For the most part, Earl Spence is throwing at minimum 2 to 3 punches whenever he lets his hands go. And some of those shots are to blind you. Some of those shots are just fakes. Some of them are to set up for the bigger shots. Some of them are to get you thinking up top and he's going to the body. Some of those shots are just to get him to where he can step around you. Earl Spence he uses his jab, his jabs, and he uses that right hand, he uses his footwork. He uses it in concert with each other to set you up for the bigger shots. And he does that. He's highly effective with that. And I can't say he won't be able to do that to Crawford at some point in the fight because he's done it to everyone else. So how can you come now and say that Earl Spence will not be able to do that to Terrence Crawford? Okay, well, Terrence Crawford isn't these other guys. The other guys Spence fought, he's fought elite fighters, man. Okay? But I don't think Terrence Crawford is going to be intimidated. I don't think Terrence Crawford is going to freeze. I don't think Terrence Crawford, like you guys, is going to sit back in a high guard and just try to catch all of Earl Spence's punches. When have you seen Terrence Crawford do that? Worst thing you can do is try to pin Terrence Crawford on the ropes, because when he's shooting those short, concise, powerful uppercut hook rolling out, now you find yourself hurt and on the ropes with your back to the ropes, and that's when Terrence Crawford starts to hemorrhage punches. And he's throwing stuff to kill you. Laser sharp, accurate, and powerful, and fast. And that's where I think in this fight it's going to be very interesting to see how and who adjust or make adjustments. You know what I mean? How and who are going to adjust and the type of adjustments. That's what I want to see. And it's I think it's going to be more complex than what people are thinking. I think this fight is going to, at some points, have some booing from the crowd, because Crawford's not going to sit there and make this a Sean Porter fight. Like, that's not what he's going to do. He's going to sit back, look for openings, and get his shots off. Because Terrence Crawford his defensive maneuverability is amazing. So when Spence is coming at him, Terrence Crawford is on the defense and maneuvering at the same time. and then he's switching at the same time and catching you with the lead left and knocking people down and out with that shot, catching you with a lead right. You know, he can do this on the back foot. He can do this moving laterally. Well, for most people, that's like taboo. You gotta have your balance. Your center of gravity has to be in place to get your shots off. For Terrence Crawford, it seems like almost everything he does, he's able to maintain his center of gravity. Same thing with Earl Spence. Whenever he's coming forward or coming back, chin is down, hands are up, he's sitting low, he's ready to fire at all times. And that's why you see Earl Spence, it's not often he gets off balance. He's always maintaining his center of gravity and ready to fire. And both of those guys possess that quality. And it's really impressive to watch. Really impressive. So we're talking about the infighting. Some people say that Earl Spence, that's the advantage for Earl Spence. The infighting. We know Earl Spence. If Earl Spence can work behind that jab, drop the left, not even to damage you, just to get you to backpedal and get you on the ropes, Earl Spence will pin you with his elbow like this, up high to the chest. And then he'll come down low and rip. And then he'll come back up top or low. Rip, rip, and back up top. Jab, right hand. Like, he uses his elbows very well to pin you on the ropes. So when you're trying to escape, he just leans forward and he just leans into you with those elbows. So he's not going to grab you because he can't grab and hold you like that. But he uses his elbows as like his hands to get hold of you and pin you where he wants you. And he starts to let shots go. He does that in almost every fight. And if he can get you on there and you're trying to grab him, that's where he'll push off with his elbows. You see him come out and go right back to work. Right back to work. And he's highly effective at that. But Terrence Crawford is a very, very good infighter too. But I just don't think he's going to find himself, allow himself to be in those positions. So you can almost say like Earl Spence, it almost sounds like he's going to be the bully, and Terrence Crawford is going to be the guy who is trying to figure out ways to slow down the bully. I think you can say that, okay? Because which one is bigger, okay? Earl Spence is bigger. But as far as who's stronger, man, the verdict's still out on who's stronger. And we just got to be fair here. There are a lot of people who still say that they think that Terrence Crawford is physically stronger than Earl Spence. Now, if you're looking at knockouts and stuff, it's kind of hard to pick one over the other. But a lot of people say Terrence Crawford is a lot stronger than what people know, and they feel he's physically stronger than Earl Spence. But Earl Spence is just bigger. Now, that's what the word is. Now, if you say, no, man, how is Earl Spence bigger than Terrence Crawford? Earl Spence has Terrence Crawford by 2 inches. Terrence Crawford is out like 5'8". Earl Spence is like 5'10". Okay? So that's 2 inches. Now the reach, Terrence Crawford has a 74-inch reach. Earl Spence has a 72-inch reach. So height goes to Spence, reach goes to Crawford. So for the most part, they're about the same as far as dimensions-wise. Okay? And they're both fighting at 147, but you can say, well, Earl Spence actually walks around 185, 190 pounds. Look at Terrence Crawford, there's no fat on that man. You telling me Terrence Crawford can walk around at 180 and still look good, aesthetically pleasing? So I'm not so sure that Spence is going to be able to weight bully Terrence Crawford. Because to me, they both, cut down to a weight that really they shouldn't even be at, in my opinion. Because they both, there's no fat on them. There's no fat on them. So it is what it is. But the counter punching, got to give that to Terrence Crawford. Earl Spence can counter. Earl Spence will counter you with his jab. He'll counter you with his straight left on top of your shot. So they both have counter punching abilities, but Terrence Crawford, we know that his counter punching game is on a whole nother level. And that's something I think could be problems for Spence, because Spence throws so many shots. And when he throws shots, you leave openings. And I think Terrence is going to just allow Terrence Crawford to get all of his to get his counters off. But the problem is, if Spence was throwing one shot at a time, it'd be easier for Crawford. Spence throws in combination. Hard to counter someone who has his chin tucked, he got his high guard up, and he's letting combinations go, and he's coming in working on behind the jab on angles. hard to get counters off, especially if you're trying to pop shot him when he's throwing 3 and 4 punches. And he's low, he has a center of gravity, and he has his guard up. It's hard to try to counter someone like that because you're going to get hit with some shit. And that's the problem. But as far as being a switch hitter, we talked about Terrence Crawford. The man can do it. The man has just perfected that. Power shots. You know, I'd have to give the power shot advantage. I think because we've seen Crawford do it so much with just one shot and stop somebody. Where Spence, he can do it, but it's more beat you down. Just systematically beat and break you down mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, shit, financially. He beats everything out you. All the spare change out your pocket. Spence beats everything out you. But when you look at what Terrence Crawford is able to do in the fight, man, he has the ability with one shot to really make you want to quit and stop you. And it's because you're getting hit from different angles. You get hit with shots you don't see. But on Spence, you can see the shots coming. You're just getting hit with so many all over, up and down, different angles. With Crawford, he's able to catch you with shots you don't expect because of the angles he's coming from, and he's countering you. So if you throw a shot like this, you're not expecting a counter, especially the way he throws it sometimes. And the worst shots in the world are the ones that you don't see. Those are the ones that hurt you and get you out of there, man. But all in all, both of these fighters have outrageous abilities. Earl Spence, you watch what Earl Spence does, it just doesn't seem real. It's like a damn video game, like he's getting power-ups, you know what I mean? For a man to get stronger every round, his output increases, his power shots increase. That's what I think, honestly, is going to be the deciding factor in this fight. I think it's 2 things. 1, stamina. 2, is counterpunching. I think if Earl Spence, if his stamina can keep up and his work rate can keep up and doesn't if Crawford can't counter the way he wants because there's so many shots coming at him, intelligently play shots, I think Earl Spence has a really good chance of winning. At the same time, if Earl Spence is letting those shots go and he has a lapse in judgment about how he's trying to place them, what he's doing, and Earl Spence lands a big, and Terrence Crawford, which he's known for, at some point, getting those counters off. If he hits him and he hurts him, Terrence Crawford's going to go in and finish him. And that's where I say these are 2 number ones battling for the undisputed distinction. Whoever wins will be undisputed. The loser will be the number 1 in the division to challenge to the champion. That's how I see it. But it is what it is. Range and reach for Crawford, just outrageous, tear down, break you down type approach from Spence. So it's going to be the range and reach of Crawford against just that come forward, break you down style of Spence. That's what it boils down to, people. The range and reach against the break you down. And we're just going to see who's going to be able to pull it out. But I'm going to tell you right now, the single shot, guys throwing single shots, that's not going to work in this fight. The single shot is not going to work. But anyway, man, that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I think those first 6 rounds are extremely critical because whoever can really get off and be effective and start to control the fight, that's a person who look long-term, if they can maintain that, has a good chance on getting a stoppage or going to the decision. But at any point, you're gonna see the momentum shifting. You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it going from Spence to Crawford. I honestly feel that way. Because these aren't normal fighters. You're not just gonna hit them and hurt them and they're gonna quit. That's not how this is gonna work. And I hope they get the right referee to let them fight. Don't go and stop the fight prematurely because Earl Spence got hit and clipped and he wobbled a bit. Nah, let him go out. Y'all let Deontay Wilder almost get killed, right? So let Spence go out like that. If Spence catches Crawford and Crawford wobbles, don't stop the fight. Let that man go out on his shield, right? Y'all let Deontay Wilder go out on his shield, right? And I'm glad y'all did. But a part of me, it hurt my heart to see Deontay Wilder get beat like that. But that left it to where there was no question. And that's what we want in this fight. To let it in to where there's no question about Who's the clear victor? Simple. That being said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to all the veterans. I appreciate y'all's support. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Let's get this to 1,000, man. We're going to be there hopefully the next couple months. Then we can start doing bigger and better things. As always, y'all keep safe. Thank you, and I'm in the breeze.